pretty grateful to have you here in advance to talk about snow. This is something that that we've been working on for some time. To go back to Congress a couple years ago, and 300 people in a room to talk about this exact issue. Contractors were calling Landscape Ontario, talking about their insurance rates going up in excess of 400, 500% from one year to the next. Talking about how they got the renewal notice and it was non-renewal for no other reason than the fact that the market had worked. And it caused us to really look introspectively and take a deep look at what the snow and ice sector is all about, and realized in Canada, in Ontario, there's not an organization that was leading the way to work towards regulation, standardization, and training. And so we felt like it was our responsibility to go down that path. And so here we are today. Quick show of hands, and we do have quite a few people online. Quick show of hands, members of Landscape Ontario Division. And those that are not, and those that are thinking about joining, where are you today? Everybody a member? Okay. We're not. Well, we'll change that by the end of our session. There we go. We have a membership one next, ready to talk. Right on. Okay. So, I always like to take an opportunity to talk about what Landscape Ontario is and what we do. This year, we're celebrating our 50th anniversary. So Landscape Ontario was started between 3 different associations in the industry back in 1973. And today we represent over 3,000 companies, which is equal to over 100,000 employees. It's pretty impressive. We have 9 chapters across the province and 10 occupational sector groups, including snow and ice. It's the industry's vision that we are recognized as professionals to provide economic, environmental, health and wellness benefits for every community across the province. And we strive to be the hub that provides the opportunities for people to earn a decent living in the landscape trades. And that brings us why we're here today, is to talk about the issues at hand, and to bring you up to speed with the work that Landscape Ontario has been doing on the snow and ice file. The snow and ice sector group at Landscape Ontario is probably the most active group in the association. It's because there is a significant issue, a crisis level issue. And I wanted to recognize for a second the group of volunteers that's leading the way through the leadership of Chair Gerald from Boots Landscaping and Maintenance, and John Agg from Pristine Property Maintenance. John is the representative for snow and ice on the Landscape Ontario Board of Directors. Everyone that's volunteering on the snow and ice sector group that's here, can you stand so that we can see who you are? Thank you, because you spent hundreds of hours driving this file, working towards accreditation, working towards regulation and standardization. Thank you. Can we get a round of applause for Gerald? Over the last several months, we've been working with the Daisy Group, who's helped us build a strategy and have implemented a sound strategy, and we're moving forward on that file. And we've got some folks from Daisy here today that are going to help us understand all the work that's been going on so far. But we can't do it without your help. And we're going to get into that. So that brings me to introduce our first speaker. We have Warren Kinsella here, president and founder of the Daisy Group Consulting. And he's a lawyer, a professor, an award-winning author, a journalist who assists clients on a wide variety of communications, government relations, and advocacy. Their unique approach of combining government relations and public relations has proven results over the last 17 years. I'll let Warren dig further into that one. In the meantime, please join me in welcoming Warren Kinsella from the DB.
Put this over here. Morning. Just the first thing first, you guys mind if I swear at some point? All right. Okay,
Fucking landscape.
yeah, this is a fucking landscape. All right. So, what I wanted to talk about today is a little bit of us and then a little bit of you. And, you know, I'm honored and privileged that you guys hired us to help you. Because we do need help on a couple of fronts. First things first, tell you a bit about us. So, as Joe mentioned, it's my background. I work for Dirty Rod Liberals, but I also know a lot of Dirty Rod Tories and New Democrats too. And so that's kind of how our firm operates. We've been around for about 20 years, and we're small by design. And I've got people here like Tara, say hi, Tara, and Trish at the back. And so they've worked in politics. We've got people working in journalism and so on. And as Joe mentioned, that's kind of how we work. Is, you know, it's good to know the politicians and you be in their Rolodex and you phone them up and they answer, but it's better to be able to tell stories in public. So that's my pitch to you today. I need your help on something, which I'm going to get to in a minute. Because you guys do need, this is why you hired us, is you've got a problem. And the problem is on insurance liability. There's other stuff in here, for sure. We're aware of that, but this is the big one right now. So availability, capacity, price of insurance is crazy. It's unstable, it's unreliable, and we need to do something about it. And, you know, the consequence of it, as you guys know, as more and more members or more of our guys are unable to afford insurance, it's already happening. You got remote communities, you got indigenous communities who are not being serviced, which then has an immediate effect on people's lives, you know, and I'll give you some examples in a minute where, you know, people can't get the kids to school, or they can't get to the hospital, or they can't get to work, or whatever. So part of our job at Daisy is telling politicians in Ontario, like you guys, people in this room are people who keep the province running, like literally. We're Canada, and we get lots of snow, and you know the environment is more unstable too, and we need to have some reliability on snow and ice removal. So, you know, responsibility for that. This is another point we're trying to drive home with government. We've had some success already. It's a shared responsibility for sure, contractors and subs, so property owners, property managers, public municipalities, other levels of government. Everybody's got a responsibility here. And they're passing the buck, and too often they're passing the buck down to us, and it's hitting us in the pocket. So it's just not fair that you are shouldering the bulk of the responsibility and the cost of snow and ice removal. That's stupid. I mean, Joe, where the guys are here on snow and ice, like how many people, how many members have left the industry in the past few years? What would you tell us? It's like 3,000 or something like that. But thousands of people have left the industry. And that's been a problem. So you guys have a plan to reform the industry and deal with this liability issue. And Daisy we think it's a good plan. And we're working with you to make it happen. So to get it started, we went right to the top. You used somebody else previously, and they're a fine firm, but you know, the way we work is you don't have time to waste, and neither do we. So we went right to a guy named Patrick Sackville, and he's Doug's chief of staff. And the reason why I did that is I wanted to be able to get his stamp of approval so that when we go out to other ministries, because you've got other ministries of government that pay attention to what we do, whether it's, you know, environment or what have you, or natural resources. I wanted to be able to say Sackville is sympathetic to what we're after. Sackville's on the side. So we've been able to get that. And so he's keeping the ball. I actually thought he'd pass the ball to somebody else. He's not done that. So next up, we've got, just in the next few days, we've got the Ministry of Environment. So Carol Maloney's chief of staff, and we got transportation. But that's transportation, we got environment as well. But we're doing all right. Yeah, but by the way, I'm not using this thing. Sorry, Karen and Trish, but it's we will leave it behind for you and take a look at it. But what I really wanted to do is get to the meat of my pitch to you, my ask of you. Like, we need your help. So, particularly right now, there's no snow on the ground, and people are thinking about bumblebees and flowers and all that kind of stuff. We've got to drive their minds back to the work that you guys do and the problem that you've got. So how do we do that? Obviously, when you're coming in there with your lobbyists and PR people and the committee and so on, they know you're going to talk about your own problems. That's what everybody does, right? They talk about their own self-interest. What I need, and what we're working on getting with your guys, the ones who just stood up, is people who can talk about what you guys do for their lives. Like when you hired us, I said, I think it's actually going to be a successful assignment because you guys are everywhere in the province. The only other people who are Canada Post and the insurance broker, really, right? You're everywhere. So you're part of every community, and you know the neighbors, these people, you're keeping these cities and towns moving. So you've got a story to tell. And this is where I know you've got these stories. I know some of you got these stories right now. We're going to have data. We're going to share that with this Pat Sackville guy and the people within government. But we need to tell stories about what you do. Because at Daisy, one of our beliefs, our cardinal beliefs, is facts tell, but stories sell. Facts tell, stories sell. That's the stuff people remember. I've helped prime ministers and premiers get ready for debates. I worked on US campaigns. What's the one thing that politicians always do in these debates that take place, right? Blah, 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 blah. But then they say, Mrs. Smith and Smith Paul said to me blank. Or, Rodney and Red Deer said to me blank. And that's when everybody pays attention to what the politician is saying. Like, reading off data, facts, figures, it's a waste of time. Because my experience, about 40% of Canadians actually don't know how many million or billion. But if you say to them, well, I was just talking to somebody down at Tim Hortons this morning, and they told me this is what the landscapers did for her last February, that they remember. That they remember. And they can't discredit that, right? Because Mrs. Smith is a real person. With a real life. That's what we need from you guys. And to be blunt, we don't have enough of those stories right now. Why do I need them? I need them so I can go to the politicians and say, and if you get to the right point, we bring Mrs. Smith along to the meeting. And she says, they saved my life. Or they saved my kid's life. Or saved my business or whatever. You guys have those stories now. I know you do. We've been putting out a call to action, asking you to get them into us, and we haven't gotten many. But we've done some research. Like, for example, there's one in Hamilton that happened in March. And the doctor, what's his name? And it doesn't matter. So the doctor had to go and do a life-saving surgery for somebody. And he couldn't get, because it was the big March, right? He couldn't get to the hospital. He actually put on cross-country skis, was cross-country skiing to the hospital. One of our guys came along and said, what are you doing? Doctor told him, he said, get in. And he plowed away to the hospital and saved a life. That story has more impact with Pat Sackville and all these politicians than any data that we can give them. Because they remember, like I just told you now, you're thinking of that. I need more stories like that. And and not just the life-saving ones. We've got another one that's in Cambridge. So they're called In Our Backyard. And I don't know if they're members or not. I think they are. Are they members in our backyard? But they're not. But that's okay, right? They're in the same sector. And they provide jobs for people who are homeless. And so far, so good. It's looking okay. And so that's an example of them helping out. That's what we need from you guys. And like at the end of this, we're gonna give you my email and Trish and Tara's email and Joe and so on. I need you to start thinking about, please, those kinds of stories. Like in this room, I don't know, there's about 80 people here. I would bet there's like hundreds of years of experience doing this work. Where people have said to you, right after an event or down the road, you like you saved my job, you saved my business, you saved my kid, right? You guys have been told those stories. We need those stories. And like, I don't need a million of them, I just need the best ones. So the plan is, call these people proxies. You guys are always going to talk about your self-interest, but if I can get somebody's grandmother in to say, holy shit, these people saved my life. They saved my life. Well, that's going to have more impact than a whole column of data with the political people. Believe me, because they pay attention to that. That's what we need from you guys. And if you only have a name or a date or a phone number, whatever, that's fine. That's what Daisy's doing. We will chase it down. We'll check the people out, see if they're comfortable speaking. And the plan is we use them with the media. When we start telling stories with the media, at a symposium or whatever, we're going to use them in the political people in a press release, or we'll bring them to a meeting. If we got somebody who's really good, bring them to a meeting and say, well, don't listen to us, listen to her. That has the hugest impact. It's just regular folks. At Daisy, we call them Joe and Jane front porch. Joe and Jane front porch have more power than anybody else in politics. That's who we need. So, like, that's my pitch to you, is to get those stories. And, where do we want them? We don't, as I say, we don't need a million. There's a couple in GTA, a couple in the north, a couple in the east, a couple in the southwest. Why do I want to do it that way? Because that's where all the media markets are, right? Whether you're up in Thunder Bay or Ottawa or whatever, Renfrew, that's where those media markets are. So we can say, we can't get to a meeting, but we got somebody to tell you a cool story. And it's the Ottawa Citizen or whatever. Then we connect those people with the media, with those real people, or the politicians with those real people. It'll have a huge impact. It'll work. We've been doing this stuff for 20 years. That is the stuff that people remember, is real folks coming in and telling real stories. So, I think if we can pull that off, because the overall story you've got to tell, and the proof is we've got the Premier's chief of staff on side, which means to me, he's already talked to Doug. And Doug is agreeing, yeah, stay with this file. So that's all good. We've got the political people, but I want to get the media and the public on side. And you guys are the only ones who do it. I do not know your stories. You guys got the stories. So if you want to write it up on a piece of paper or send us an email, actually, you put that up on the screen. Can we put that up? Is it the last page or something? There you go. The pretty PowerPoint we did play there. Big round of applause for that. Actually, the guy who did invent PowerPoint said the only good PowerPoint is 10 pages. Anything longer than that, it's no good. We keep going, and we're doing that. And you see it right to the last page. Do we have the emails on the last page? Anyway, so you're going to see those, and what we ask you to write them down. And some people are not going to want to be in the meeting. Some people are not going to want to talk to a politician. That's fine. But if we have stories that I can then refer to privately with the political people, saying, well, we got somebody in your ride and we saved their life. They go, what? Yeah, we saved their life. Here's their name. Here's what happened. That's the stuff that gets remembered more than anything else. So those are the people. So that's me there. There's Joe. Pass it along to us. We'll take it from there. You don't have to investigate the whole thing. Some people aren't going to want to talk. Some people are not ideal, but that's what we're after. Right now, we've got a pretty good head of steam going, political people and so on. But now I want to start telling the story with the public and with the media. That's how we do it. All right, so there's my pitch to you. So thanks for putting up with me. If you have any questions at all, happy to answer. Go ahead, sure.
3,000 members you said left, is that enough of a story, or are you losing a lot of stories right there?
Yep.
Isn't that the story?
Yeah, oh, for sure, and we've done that, right? We told Sackville that, and they know it's true, right? Because they're hearing back from those communities that are now not being serviced. They know it's true. But obviously what we're gonna work on is some of those communities saying, getting those mayors or whatever. If we've got a conservative MP who's in my area near Belleville, who's ready to go. He said, whatever you need, I know the good work you guys do, and I know we're losing some members. So we got somebody ready, but you know, having those kind of real life stories has even more of an impact. Yes, sir.
I think it's more of an industry story than an actual Mr. or Ma and Pa story, because the people in this room are not the problem. We all go out on a 6-hour schedule, plow schedule. The people that aren't in this room go out on a 12-hour schedule, because this isn't an accredited industry.
Yeah.
They cause the slip and falls, they cause the insurance problems, they cause all the issues that you're fighting for. We are not the problem. We have to get regulated so we can get accredited, so then we can be like plumbers, electricians, and everybody else. And the government says, okay, we give you the staff, you get these people accredited, so the guys that aren't in this room won't be able to be in this industry.
Yeah.
That's more of a problem than saving somebody from getting to the hospital or something. The industry needs your help. It needs help from the
We
government.
need red seal or whatever the
Exactly.
is,
Yeah.
need certification.
Yeah.
And, you know, so your question raises a problem we've got too. But some of the stories that we've seen over the past few weeks, this happens every year. We've got some good news stories like the doctor in Hamilton or whatever. There's also some bad news stories.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're talking about, we agree, that's what you counter it. It's like, no. Our guys are trained, they're certified, they know how to protect the environment, they know how to do the job right. You know, they've got proper insurance, you know, reasonable insurance. And so, yeah, that is one of the things we're saying to government is our guys know how to do the job. You got certified, so we can tell the world we're the right ones to do it. Yes, sir.
Is that the goal of your group, is to get us certified? So what's the end result? What are we looking for other than reducing our cost of insurance? What's the main goal of it?
To get you more and cheaper insurance is reasonable. To get you the certification we talked about, to get the government to better understand what you do, to be more supportive. And on the environmental piece, we need to be showing them that, you know, over salting, as you guys have been saying to them for years, is bad for the environment, and there are alternatives to doing it. Those are the kind of the four main things, probably missing a couple others, but those are the big ones. And the good news so far, you know, I'll be honest with you, I was worried of going to them in the warmer months, right, out of sight and mind. And it really hasn't happened. They are focused on it, and so we got the door open with the right people. I'd say those are the four big ones right now.
Those four things, sorry to interrupt, those four issues you just brought up are the people that are not in this room, are the bulk of the problem and the bulk of the contractors.
Yeah.
We're not the problem, but we're paying for it.
Yeah. And I think they get that. And Sackville's really gets it. He's a pretty sharp cat. And you know, it's just we've got heard a bunch of cats here within government. If the stuff that we do goes across different ministries, different departments. So having Sackville on site helps us in kind of rallying all of that and getting everybody focused on the solution we want. Like so far so good. Like I want to, you know, so far so good. It's going well. It's just we need those stories from you guys. You know, we'll handle everything else, but we need to hear from you on those good news stories that you've got or problems, right? So if you're in a community, you're in a smaller community, you're the only guy left, and everybody else is left for business, and you're overburdened and over charged in terms of insurance, we need to hear about that too. Bad news stories, tell some stories too. Other questions? Make sense? Yep. So that's what we need. And I know for a fact without even checking, you guys got those stories, so send them along, just pop us a note, whatever, and we'll chase it down. You don't have to have chapter and verse. We'll make sure that we are finding the right people. We don't, like I said, we don't need an army, we just need a few, we're telling the right story. All right,
In your experience, Warren, what do you see the next couple of years being in a sense? Like, is this something, right, is this that will happen before next winter? Or are we talking this is a 2-year process or a 5-year process, just to kind of get our expectations in mind?
we'd like to be sooner than later. I mean, you see, one thing, you know, I know Doug, you know, my background is liberal, we became friends about a decade ago. And he is pretty results oriented, like his big focus, obviously, as you guys have seen, is housing, and he's prepared to break a few eggs to get it done. You guys are part of that. You can't build communities unless you have schools and you have an ability for people to get around within those communities. So my answer, maybe I'm biting on word I can chew, but I think we are looking at a solution well before the next election. So he can say, not only am I building however many, you know, housing opportunities for people, because it's desperately needed in the province, we're also making sure that they're properly served. You guys are part of that. There's no point in building a house you can't get to it. We'll get out of it. So before the next election will be my answer. Anything else? All right, thanks for hiring us, and look forward to hearing from you at any point. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, Warren. Really appreciate you being here, being here today. Don't apologize. If there ever was a group, that's okay. Harm, I noticed you had a question, put up your hand right at the end.
Yeah, sorry, I'm always vocal.
That's okay, do it.
Warren, I love your strategy, the good news stories. Is there anything else that we can add to the, I guess, the war chest or the front moving forward? So for example, you know, we have maybe an MPP coming into our community. How do we show up as Landscape Ontario? And when there's an event, and and be loud so that they know we're in the community and we're involved on top of your news stories.
One thing you can do right now, we'll get you ready with the talking points and all that you need. Because you guys are, and this is a hell of a tournament, okay? So this, you know, says to us, this is a concern for everybody. You guys are all across the province, right? So in about what, as a month, the legislature shuts down. So all of those MPPs are going back to their ridings, and you know, to keep busy and so on, they're gonna have meetings over the course of the summer. You guys, you got a minute, usually are on a Saturday or whatever, or an evening, when you got some time, go to the meeting and raise these issues. We'll make sure that you've got the points you want to raise, because what I want is those MPPs, when they come back to Toronto and meet Doug, say, I had all these landscapers in talking to me all summer. And the guy in Melville will say, yeah, me too. And somebody in Tim says, yeah, same thing happened to me. So we fan out across the province. So they come back, Doug will go to see that, and you go, they're organized. And they're all singing from the same hymn book. Right? And that's something we need to pay attention to. So that's something you guys can do. It'll cost nothing, just a bit of your time. And it really has an impact, especially with a politician like Doug, because he's very kind of street level. You know, he listens to what people are saying at street level. So that's one thing. So anything you need, we'll get you ready for it. And you know, Snow and Ice will do the same thing. Those meetings are worth it. And just have to pop in and see what they're saying and put your question before them.
Is this an across Canada issue or just Ontario issue? What is this?
It's cross Canada. So here's a confession. For years, we represented IBC, Insurance Bureau of Canada, on auto fraud. Worst auto fraud in the country is North America, is in Ontario. We have the highest auto insurance rates in North America and Ontario. And this Olson Road is the worst place for auto fraud. So we were working on exposing auto fraud and then going after lawyers who were individual lawyers who were using the system, and we're going after fraudsters. So working for the insurance guys, I learned a lot. And, like, you know, I'm not gonna snow you, no pun intended. They've got a $40 million budget for lobbying public relations nationwide, 40 million. So we can't beat them. They've got an army of lobbyists. They got an army of PR and spin people. We can't beat them at that game. They just go, you know, exhaust us. But we can beat them telling the Joe and Jane front porch stories. They don't have that. Nobody wants to step up and say, I love my insurance company. When was the last time you heard that? Right? That's not happening. But we've got people that we serve, that we hear from, prepared to step up and say, I need this guy. You know, I'm a grandmother. I'm not gonna be able to see my grandchildren if, you know, my street isn't clear. Or my parking lot or whatever. The insurance industry, the one thing I've learned of it is David and Goliath, right? Or David. They have a total inability to respond to Joe and Jane front porch. They're scared shitless, Joe and Jane front porch, because they know how hated they are. So we can tell, that's why I need those stories. Because as soon as we leave the meeting in Sackville, IBC's lobbyists are gonna be in there saying, oh, don't listen to me. You know, here's some data showing how much we're charging that is reasonable, and we've got all these slip and falls that are taking place. It's not our fault, right? Like the insurance lobbyists all over Queens Park every single day. But we're in there with real life stories saying, hey, Doug, you're gonna lose the ability to serve certain parts of the community. People are gonna blame you. That they're gonna pay attention. So the insurance industry, they are wild, but I think we can beat kind of the David way.
Given that the current government tends to be fairly business friendly, would stories from business owners that are customers of landscapers be valuable as well?
Yep.
Like my business couldn't operate without Joe Snow Contractor.
Yeah, not every broker is in. Some of them are. We know they are trying to help us out. Yes, yeah. But yeah, like so, part of this proxy war. You know, I want the grandmother, I want the family, I want the teacher, I want the doctor in Hamilton. But if you've got people you serve, you know, businesses, small business especially, saying, holy crap, like you can't, I'm out of business, he's out of business. If you can put some of those together too and send them to us, Joe and I can make use of that and chase them down. Here we go.
We have a comment question from online. Kent says, I assume LO is working with Sima on this issue. Yes, Kent, that is a yes.
Can't we work with the insurance, like the insurance doesn't like it either, because there is a lot of claims. So aren't we sort of on the same page a little bit?
Sometimes we will be, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the insurance industry I learned from working for them is like they're different. It's like a family, right? There's different people within it. So you've got the brokers, you know, who are in the smaller communities like us. But then, you know, you've got what's taking place in Toronto, Queens Park. That is more of our adversary. I think they should have the self-awareness to say, well, it doesn't help our business if these guys go into business. Right. But so yes, there is a meeting that's taking place soon. Where my phone's with this, so I'm gonna make sure that turns out. So it's here get red. He's not great yet. Oh, here you go. So yeah, no, I sent him a picture this morning. He was skateboarding like 30 years ago, just down the road. I was funny. Sorry, I'm hanging up on a prime minister today. I didn't plan that. He's gonna think it's funny. So yes, question again. The insurance, yeah, it depends. Like, you know, some of them are gonna help us out and some are not. My experience with IBC, the organization in Toronto, is they're probably not thinking about us very much.
So, you know, in the early eighties, when there was a problem with insurance with car insurance.
Yeah.
And they just said, okay, you can't sue. You fell down, you got in an accident, you get this much, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, can't you do something like that? Like, just say you can't, if, I don't know, everybody here, if you didn't get sued. Insurance comes down, you're not overselling anything. Referring to no fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Quebec already has it.
Yeah, that's what I.
No fault happened, because, well, it was 20 years in the making, at least. And also the number of claims. So it overwhelmed the court system. My answer to you would be, if we, and this is me putting on my legal hat, if we could show that the courts are being overwhelmed by claims because of snow and ice issues, you know, that would be helpful. I don't think we are just yet. Auto insured, you know, auto accidents are happening more than we're experiencing stuff. So, okay, so how do we go at that? So Daisy then wouldn't argue the number of claims because they're just comparatively they're going to be less.
Right.
What I would argue is an outrageous award. So if we get a court case, you guys should think about this one too. If you're aware of a court case where there was a crazy award, it basically had the effect of putting everybody involved in a business and keeping people out of the business, saying, hell with this. We're not gonna happen to me. Then tell me about that, we won't be able to use that.
With 3,000 people down.
Yeah, there's around 3,000 people gone, you're gonna know a lot of good stories.
But I'm talking about like, yeah, who's that asshole in the States, the Infowars guy, right? So he was, the reason why I raised that is he got sued by the parents and Sandy Hook. And it's a terrible case, and well, they sued him, and the award was $1 billion. If we have a big outcome that we can point to, that it's just like crazy as a proportion to the damage, that's something that could use.
Do we have those? No, because we never end up in court.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
and I imagine there's not one person in this room that's actually seen it right through to the end.
Yeah.
The insurance companies settle costs.
The one thing that helps us out is the personal injury lawyers, because I thought, you know, the diamond guys, you know, you see them on the side of the bus.
And on the paperwork.
Yeah, and they were a great target for me because everybody hated them. Like they looked slippery and they were. And they were states with been money on justice. So if we can make part of our target of personal injury lawyers, it will always work. Because nobody's in all of those guys. Nobody's happy with they do this.
Great.
They're renters. Yeah.
I knew they reached the bottom when I went to the Raptors game. I went to the urinal. There's Diamond's picture on top of the urinal. Literally, that's what it was.
Cam Woolley loved them.
Bearing in mind, the monthly cost of insurance is not truly the only problem. It's your deductible. So
They're spending our money, how they fit.
Right,
The $1,000 deductible. The auto 25 grand before you even see the inside of the discovery.
the auto part of it can't be.
Well, then
At least $500.
Well, personal injury lawyers are going to court. They're always looking for their big settlements. And the insurance industry gives it to them. Because it's easier and cheaper. But the stories we can tell, again, I don't need 100 stories. I just need 1 or 2 or 3 good ones. Sure.
So, your question before was about working with the insurance companies, and I can't see how that could ever. So you've got an insurance company telling the property owner or the township that they have to have an indemnity clause, a one-sided indemnity clause in their contract. And then that same insurance company won't allow you to sign their contract because it has a one-sided indemnity clause. So they're creating the problem and profiting from the problem.
But if we could tap into the 40 million, just say. There is no swimming around, you know, somewhat of no fault or, there's no problem. But there's more profit if they collect all our money and don't get out. Which they wanted to buy. And they're getting that, there's insurance companies just getting out of snow altogether because they wouldn't do that. They would be funny. There's no cost. Maybe $10,000 and they got $10,000.
I think one way, I mean, we're getting kind of down a rabbit hole here, but one tactic I thought of it, we haven't chased it down yet. And I know from work, I'll tell you a story. So it was 4 or 5 years ago this week. And I walked into the meeting. The meeting was about auto insurance. And here I'll pretend this is my device. And so there were presidents of insurance companies there, vice president. This is what they're all doing. And they weren't paying any attention to what I was saying or anybody else. And so I said to one of their guys, what are they doing? They said they're watching the hectares of fires taking place in Alberta. I said, why are they doing that? They said they're quantifying what the cost is to them. So I think part of our argument, and it has been, is that we're in the environment business too. The fire and flood is hammering the insurance industry. Climate change is real, we all know, you guys know. And so it's costing them on the bottom line, getting them to a more reasonable approach with us. If we can't have Canadians who don't have protection against fire and flood, you know, we all know that, but we can't. You know, I think part of our pitch would be that you can't have Ontarians who don't have protection in the wintertime against storms because the weather is getting more extreme. But I'm just kind of, that's off the top of my head. But I think basically what I'm saying in answer to your questions, we piggyback on the efforts that are taking place, you know, with others, with firefighters and so on.
Got gentleman at the back.
Yep. I'll be honest, I'm an insurance broker, don't hate me. I'm coming from Ottawa, actually, the reason I got into insurance was because my dad's a landscaper and they paid out on a couple snow claims that they shouldn't have. That's why I ended up getting into insurance, so please don't hate me, but I come from the same cut of the cloth. One question I had though, Bill 118, great, that was awesome. Hail's about to be out this year, with the reporting period and everything for slip and falls. Basically, what's happened now is personal injury lawyers are now looking at it saying, okay, now we got to act fast. We've got to strike while the iron's hot because we only have a certain amount of time before we put our claim in, right? So I don't know if anyone's been watching any sports or anything recently or any TV, but every other advertisement, I'm either gambling or I'm suing someone. So are you guys looking into ways to circumvent the amount of ads or anything they're able to do that way? And not only that, a couple of steps down the line, once we put something in place, how we're going to make sure that it's solidified and they're not going to be able to just pivot and circumvent that. Right.
Well, I mean, this gets into political strategy, communication strategy. This is what I did for and a whole bunch of others. You know, I'm a big believer that having more money doesn't mean you win, right? If having more money won you a campaign, well, then Ross Perot would have been president of the United States, not Bill Clinton, right? It's having the right message. We're never going to equal those guys, and because you're quite right, iGaming, the advertising, it's out of control. But I think Doug is going to be dealing with that relatively soon. We know that. And the personal injury lawyers, I kind of don't mind them being out there so much because I know what their reputation is. I've done the polling. Like when you say to the public, well, they're getting a contingency of 5%, public go, okay. When you say it's 10%, they go, oh no, that's too much. When you say to them what it actually is, you know what it actually is. It's 30%. Well, public say, hell no. So I'm not worried about having them as an enemy. They're actually useful. They can advertise their faces off. We can beat them, right? But the, you know, this is why when I'm talking about these Joe and Jane front porch stories, those have way more power than an advertising can.
I don't think we're beating the lawyers though, because dealing with the insurance companies, we're dealing with the result of our problem. The cause of our problem is the lawyers.
Yeah.
They've got on the radio everywhere, like you said, ads, oh, it's now 2 years. make sure you get in before 2 years, but if you miss the 2-year deadline, I'll still get you in there. It's no problem.
But I fought them. I know how to beat them. Like these diamond guys, you see everywhere, they're a gift from heaven for us.
Not really, because like that's
No, trust me, they are bullshit artists. It's just, I just told you what the polling we did show. When people find out how much money those guys make for doing diddling, they're like, oh, forget it. And Doug knows it. Government knows it. The government's not lining up for any ribbon cutting photos with the Ontario Trial Lawyers Association. They are not. Those guys, like insurance brokers, is heard. Some of them are our friends. They're trying to get us to that best deal. The trial lawyers are not. And me having them as an enemy, that's a good day. I'm not worried about that.
But what's got us to the point we're in are the lawyers.
For sure. That's the story we gotta tell the government. And we're gonna get some fraud stories out of it too, right? Well, I guarantee you, one of you guys in this room knows of or has experienced somebody suing you, somebody you know, and the case turned out to be bullshit.
My friend, everybody's
I just need a couple of those. And that discredits everything that the trial lawyers are saying. Because they're the ones perpetrating the fraud. They know it. They know. We just need to, we don't have to disprove every case. We just need to cast doubt on it.
The one my friend posed his company for, she's gone around to all the restaurants in the region.
There you go.
And she slips on purpose and sues.
They're just, they're not good guys. Sir,
Correct me if I'm wrong, 10, 15 years ago, they changed laws for lawyers where you don't have to provide a retainer for them before you, in the past, you used to have to retain a lawyer and they eliminated that. That's more or less when this really started to come into effect.
Yeah. And advertising.
Yeah.
They were given the green light to advertise. Like
Yeah.
that 30% I talked about, that's 30% on the settlement.
Yeah.
Because it's always pointed out, usually settlement. They're charging you 30% on every photocopy, every phone call, right? And I've had so many times people phone me up because they found out I was doing this work on auto fraud. And they're like, I just got a letter from my lawyer, I'm not getting anything, or I owe them something, and I've got a broken back for the rest of my life. And then I said, I'm sorry. The government's let it happen. But if we can go in there with some others and say, this situation is driving us out of business, you're gonna have constituents, you cannot have snow removal next year. They're gonna pay attention to that. Because one thing I know is God's gonna make sure it snows next year. That's a given.
So is there any chance we're reverting back to where, if somebody wants to sue you, then they have to retain a lawyer and then put some skin in the game? Other than just walking in and.
Yeah, but it's, if we're being fair, it's not fair to some people. If you get some people who are poor, who do stuff involved, and they deserve it, but they don't have the dough to, slap down $10,000 to retain a lawyer. So contingency makes some sense, but when it's 30%, I would think that's greedy.
Didn't Jeremy Diamond just get in trouble for that?
Yeah, he wasn't doing any legal work. To your point that you were saying earlier, or one of you guys were saying, he's never been inside a goddamn courtroom. All he does is he sits there with one of those ear things on his head. He gets phone calls from people and says, oh yeah, we'll take care of it. And then he refers the case to somebody else and he gets a referral fee. I don't think there's a single lawyer in that line of lawyers that got on the side of a bus who's actually been in a court. But Doug knows, right? Dalton knew that, Kathleen knew that, Elle knew. But what they're gonna say to us is help us to help you. Because they're up against the $40 million too. You guys have to do a better job telling your story. Sackville's already said that to us. For sure, you're right. So, but help us to help you. That's why I need these stories from. Go back. Sir.
Going back to your strategy, I know the sector Snow and Ice Group had mentioned at our last meeting, affirmative action, and for example, showing up at Queen's Park as a rally, make some noise, get noticed. Secondly, a standard for snow removal. There's no such thing as a standard in this country, what's to be done. And thirdly, being classified as an emergency service. So I just want to know, along with your good news, along with the stories, is this part of the group's strategy still? Are we looking at these things?
Yes, and I'm glad you asked that question, because I just got approval to tell you. So, Snowposium, it is a beautiful spot and all that, but Daisy's advice is we don't do it here. Go down to Queen's Park. And we go to, like, the biggest political event, well, here we do quiz. What's the biggest thing that all the politicians go to every fall?
Tractor pull.
Huh?
Tractor pull or something.
Right?
Really?
Plowing match. And they have a contest who can, do a row, and they take a picture, and Doug and whoever. So what Daisy feels, getting them out here is always tricky, right? Because they're scheduling, so they are busy. So we go down to Queen's Park. So the idea is to have a lobby day. To your point, we bring some machinery down there. Some of them are gonna want to get their picture taken, sitting on the truck. So they send it back to constituents. We serve them hot dogs and pancakes or whatever the hell we do. When we get them where they are, they can't escape. And then what we would do is fan out during the course of the day to talk about those types of issues, talk about the insurance industry and environment and all that kind of stuff. So it's a day set aside for us. We're looking at what, September, October, something like that. Yeah. October.
They say we should all hook up our plows and find them, trap them.
We go right down to Queen's Park, park in front. And we Daisy, we did an event.
Everybody's gonna be a criminal.
What's that?
Everybody's gonna be a criminal then in order to. Just like the truck.
Yeah, well, no, it'll be like pictures work, right? If we show up with, no, we'll get a permit, don't worry, nobody's gonna get arrested. I'll get arrested, everybody gets home. But it's just be a good event, right? Because they're gonna dig it. And they'll be able to talk to you and it'll just, they're the kind of events that work. And we've got a package where we can get whatever we want, food to give them or whatever, drinks, whatever. And we've done these many times in the past, and it's just cost effective and time effective. So all we're there. So that's
We
what
all
we
have
want to do.
plows, so if we circle them, they can't get away.
That's right. They're trapped. No, we were there, we ran press conference at the car, last weekend, and same deal. And it was interesting, it was an indigenous group there ahead of us, that's watching them, and they had people dressed in indigenous, clothing and headdresses and all that, and drums and all that, and guess where all the cameras, right, they went right to that. So that's what we want to do, is have a bit of show and tell. We've got the equipment, we've got the people to show up, and then, so that'll be the fun part. And then during the course of the day, we have meetings to do these and all parts, not just there. Tell our story.
So correct me if I'm wrong, there was a window of getting sued from 2 years, now it's down to 2 months. That legislation got changed or no? Is that correct or no? That was something they were working on.
Yeah, that's correct.
There's something it's done.
Correct, yeah,
But even if it changes to 2 days,
the tail end.
even if it changes to 2 days, the lawyers are still gonna know the same song and dance to get it done. Right? So like the other gentleman said, it's gotta be more work done to like certify, make industry standards in regards to this nonsense that's going on.
We all agree.
There might be some misconceptions about what Bill 118 actually does. Okay, so Bill 118 doesn't mean that person who slipped and fell can't sue you after 2 months if they don't notify. It's you or them notifying the property manager, or the owner, or whoever it was, and they have to notify you so you can notify the insurance. They can still sue you 2 years less a day. That hasn't changed. Bill 118 did not change that.
That hasn't changed.
No. Just for clarification for everyone, if you think that's what Bill 118 did, is get. And on top of that, we have no actual evidence that if they don't notify you within 60 days, or they withhold that information, if there's any actual consequence to that.
There is, the lawyers are already advertising that. They've got ways around it all.
Correct. So
ultimately, COVID-19 did not push things forward in the way we wanted.
Well, like I said at the start, we've had some success, but we got still got to look. That's part of it.
I hope I'm probably the last question here. I'm a broker as well. Quite a few of these folks in this room are clients of ours, and we've been working really hard to battle against, what's been happening with insurance as well. But what we're seeing, again, to sort of mimic what they said over there in that corner, is it's not really the same as auto claims, because these claims aren't reaching the courts. They're all being settled, and the insurers and the adjusters are getting overwhelmed, and they're just closing files to get them off their desks. So they're not necessarily reaching the courts, and I don't believe that we're going to capture that data. Is there anything we can kind of provide, maybe from a broker perspective or individual clients, maybe like loss histories, some of that kind of data to arm you? Because I don't believe you're going to receive that from IBC or the courts.
Sure. So yeah, we've got to meet with Monday afternoon with the insurer IBC. So Sackville, this is why I went to Sackville first. Sackville, the British chief of staff, wants the data. Some of the data we're not in a position to give. You guys have got other things going on in your lives. You're not collecting data all the time. And the point you just made, we don't have that data either. IBC does. So we're going to have this meeting with them on Monday afternoon. We're going to put their feet to the fire. If anybody's got the actuarial data, maybe. So we're going to say, British chief of staff wants. We prefer not to tell him that you're refusing to do it. So we'll see what happens.
Excellent. I actually work with Chris too. So.
All right. You're gonna be bored of me now.
Warren, on behalf of Landscape Ontario and the Panellists sector group, again for you and the Navy group. Landscape Ontario, for all of our partners and speakers, we plant a tree on your behalf through the Canadian Trees for Life. So we'll be planting a tree on behalf of these. So now I'm officially standing between you and lunch. But just a few more things. On top of the stories that we need from you, we're also looking for financial support. Landscape Ontario, the Canadian Nursery Landscape Association, and some of the industry have kicked in cash to fund this campaign. We need your financial support to do this as well. So if you are in a position where you're able to contribute financially to this campaign, please do let me know. You have my email address that was on the screen, Salemi@landscapeontario.com, or come and talk to me or any one of our staff, and we'll facilitate that. Whatever works for you, we can handle that as a payment option, but we do need your financial support to make this happen. And if you do have questions about how that'll work, just let me know. And of course, today wouldn't be possible without the support from our staff team. We have Carrie Bilsma, member event specialist with Landscape Ontario, and the key in making this all happen. Thank you, Carrie. We have, thank you. Also making this all happen, and Ian Service, making sure all our tech is running the way it's supposed to. Now, we also have during lunch members from our workforce development team that are here. If we say snow insurance and the snow liability issues are a major issue affecting you, we also know that getting good people and keeping good people is also up there. And one of the biggest things that Landscape Ontario does is workforce development. And through our GROW program, we recruit people, we train them here in Milton, and we work to get them employed with employers like you. So we have Courtney McCann, who's our director of workforce development. She also has some of her teams, information that's on the other side of this wall here, about how to get involved in the GROW program and get access to the recruits that we're trying to do that. And that's all funded by the Ministry of Labor, by the way. So the province is covering all the costs on this. So let's utilize this program to its fullest. So I'll start by introducing the panel. First, we have Gerald Booth, Booth's Landscaping and Maintenance. Gerald is president and CEO, founders of Booth's Landscaping, which was established in 1981. The full service ground maintenance company, mainly high-rise and townhouse condominiums. Year-round service includes snow and ice, lawn care, horticulture, irrigation, landscape design, and construction. Gerald is committed to excellence, both personally and professionally. He was one of the first people in Canada to write the exam for the certified landscaping manager successfully. He served on the Landscape Ontario Board of Directors from 1994 until 2012. 12 years on the executive committee, 4 of those years as treasurer and president of Landscape Ontario in 2004, 2005. One of the founders and current chair of the Landscape Ontario Snow and Ice Sector Group. In January of 2011, Gerald was awarded as honorary life member of Landscape Ontario. Then we have John Egg, Pristine Property Maintenance. John started cutting grass in the neighborhood of Highland Creek in Scarborough at the age of 12. In 2005, after graduating from U of T with an HBA in Arts and Culture, he decided to stick with his passion and started 16 property maintenance. They doubled in size every year to the point of having 250 condominiums, 160 employees, and 80 vehicles. Winners of the Board of Trade Business Growth Award and various Landscape Ontario awards for team property maintenance has grown into a full service property service company with 10 different sectors out of Ajax, as well as Eastern, Near North, Wartha, and Capital Division. John sits as the president of the Durham chapter of Landscape Ontario, the Snow and Ice Sector Group representative on the provincial board, chair of the Workforce Development Committee, and as a member of the Snow and Ice Committee of Landscape Ontario. Pristine Property Maintenance head office is proudly based in Ajax, and John lives in Scarborough with his wife Suzanne. We have Chris Morrison from Morrison Claims and Risk Services, who's the chair of the Education Subcommittee of the Snow and Ice Sector Group for the development of curriculum and training, which has been approved by the board, as well as the chair of the subcommittee to draft the accreditation policy. He is also currently the government relations subcommittee chair and is part of the U.S. Standards Development Committee through the Snow and Ice Management Association. And the accreditation policy will result in anyone wishing to create education in accordance with the curriculum vetted and approved by a Landscape Ontario Accreditation Committee. Feel like Chris was that. Chris was also part of the advisory committee and participated in the workshop arranged by the Canadian Standards Association, which determined a national snow management standard was required by the industry. He prepared and many of those interviewed by CSA in the workshop, which concluded unanimously that there was a need for a national control adjuster and litigation manager for the snow management self-insured retention program, as well as the control adjuster for the elevator industry SIR program. He was recognized by the Superior Court of Ontario for elevating device maintenance expertise and has been maintaining an expert witness on elevating device science. He's been studying the snow and ice management industry for the past 5 years. Chris is also part of the team of contractors who prepared a seed document for the Canadian Standards Association and commits to its proceeding and is in the process of developing with others education to be accredited, as well as drafting a safety and industry handbook for snow and ice management personnel. We have our moderator, we have Jordan Robertson from Vaesis. Started working in the landscape and snow removal and a focus on training, health, and safety and technology. Spent 18 years working his way from the ground up to supervisor, operations manager, general manager of snow and ice contractors. He spent the previous 4 years as a consultant focused solely on helping landscape snow and ice contractors. Now working as an independent consultant for the industry, as well as GM of a snow and ice focused technology company, Basis. His background in programming with small stints at Microsoft, Research and Motion, and Canada throughout his career, but always found himself coming back to the industry. Really like to welcome up everybody on the panel, and we'll hand the mic over to Joel.
Thanks everyone for coming. Joel said a lot about this, but first panel is sort of elaborate on some stuff. So when I'm talking about sort of what the Sony sector group is doing, what all is doing, at a very high level. And a lot of questions that you guys were asking, we're getting very granular. And we have answers for some of that stuff. So that's sort of the purpose in this. You guys can ask a lot of questions. I know each of them has a few things they want to say. I can tee that off, and it's going to generate a lot of questions from each of you. So I'm going to start with Gerald, if you don't mind, because you've got a prepared list of things to talk about in regards to sort of some history here and what we're doing going forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, you know, I thought I would start off by mentioning a few things about what it was like 40 years ago in this industry. I'll tell you, it's changed a lot. And I remember shoveling snow by hand with a steel shovel. And these things were at least 30 inches wide. And if you hit it right on the sidewalk, it was painful. The other thing that really strikes me when I reflect is the plows that we used. They were all straight things. And there weren't a whole lot of tractors around. At least, you know, we worked in the city. And when the V plow came out, and the scoop blades came out, what a different statement that was. And then the technology, you know, like with live bed blade we have now, and it's the plows that are about 16 feet wide, it's tremendous. What we're able to do today, and the productivity in terms of how much snow we can push today compared to what we were doing 40 years ago is is probably 5 times, we do 5 times the work than what we used to do. Also on the sidewalk, we would sidewalks, it's just incredible. The other thing that's changed is salt trucks. I remember 40 years ago, we had 2 guys who were salt. One guy was in the back of the truck, so the salt out of the back, and one guy was driving. And then we got our first sliding salter. And I remember that kid out of the truck and pulled it up to start this thing. So yeah, the industry's come a long way, but there's with all of this, there's one thing that we didn't have, and that was slipping insurance rates. And one of I think the other great improvement that we have today is technology. Back in the day, there were no cell phones, no computers, no weather forecasting programs. We did get a 2-way radio, I think, probably in the mid-80s. And look at now what we can do in terms of we know where our people are, our guys are working. We've got GPS, salt tracking on our salters, dash cameras, onboard surface temperature gauges, site cameras with the ability to measure air temperature, ground temperature. We didn't have funds, and back then too, deciding whether or not to go out and plow snow. We go out with the rule. If it was under 2 inches, we didn't bother. And we went And, so how things have changed. So what I'll do, so, you know, what happened. And, I remember, I guess it was in, during the city, and the grounds management sector meetings. And we spent a client with small money stations, liability, insurance, and culture. In 2004, we started the small sector group. And I think I'll probably be still on my committee that song about when we started. But the first thing we did was we were able to get contract people. We knew Robert Howard, still and that contract didn't think we updated it to the features, but it's still on the LOS, and many companies are using it. And then one of the other things that we did fairly early on was reduce the statute of limitations from 7 years to 2 years. And then as we again were reading this morning, it's now 60 days. And again, we are aware of the challenges and problems that we have with this 60-day statute. It helps, but it's not the solution. And then we also participated in the 2011 Waterloo University study on the use of salt. We did that in partnership with, I think, the University of Waterloo and the City of Waterloo, because they realized that they had a high or have a high water table, and they're finding a lot of salt, sodium in their water. So that was the impetus to do that. And then the most recent thing that we've done is in late 2020, we approached the Canadian Standards Association, CSA, with a request to consider the development of a national standard of the snow. And we did that with 3 reasons. Number 1 was ensuring public and worker safety. Number 2 was rising liability and insurance costs. And number 3 was managing risk from snow and ice management practices to the nearby waters. The study was completed, and with industry participation, and Mr. Morrison, he was on that, he was part of that group along with members. And the 4 key issues were: number 1, liability. This report was released in 2021. It took a while to get to the report. Anyhow, we have it. And the number 1 issue, or number 1, is liability. And that is that we, as snow and ice management contractors, were required to bear all the liability for certain costs in the properties that we serve. Number 2, training and competency. And since there's no formalized requirement for contractors to meet a minimum standard of training, there's a lack. And there's also a lack of consistency between the work that we do as contractors. So again, there's no formal requirements for contractors to train. Number 3, environmental income. With the overuse of rock salt, creating the damage to the environment, and especially the freshwater systems that we have. And then 4, again, talking about this morning, is the regulatory framework. With significant safety and environment concerns associated with snow and ice management practices, there's no statutory framework that regulates what the industry must do to protect the environment or the safety of the public. So that begs the question: what did we do? So we asked the CSA, develop the standard. We need your help. And at that time, this was, I guess now we're talking the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. They said no, they were just too busy, and they couldn't take it on. So we're impatient. We want to see results. We want to make progress in the industry. So we have these 4 bullets, right, that I just highlighted. So what we did was we got on the training side of things. So we developed the curriculum for the training program with the intent to improve safety and establish industry practices that ensure that the environment concerns are a component of the training. So that's done. And then the other thing is, one of the things that we always realize, there's no career path for someone entering into our industry. So that's also what the curriculum has addressed. So there's a bunch of courses. The first course, that's the entry level course, is a safety course. And it's a start position for snow workers who don't have to drive or operate any heavy equipment. And here you find out that there is a career path that the industry has. And as well, they learn the safety aspects of working in our industry, not operating, being around. The second course is what we call the snow apprenticeship course, and that's basic entry level training involving practical component. And the practical component is to be confirmed by an individual holding consistent supervisor accreditation. A company generated confirmation sheet is provided by the training provider, and it's returned to the trainer. And he keeps track of what he knows and how far along he is in his career. Then we have the assistant supervisor course, and that's taken after someone has developed some experience and now seeks a leadership role. Record keeping, safety are emphasized in this course. And it's more detailed, and it's stressed that the advancement in the industry career path is more likely when the individual understands and can appreciate that record keeping is occurring. It's vital that we keep documentation on all that we do. Or a dispatcher, of course, and that's basically the theoretical knowledge of a working dispatcher to fill a whole whack of roles. Call for mobilization, supervise and document activity of personnel, determine the salt expense rate, whether it's low, high, or medium, in response to site and weather conditions, and also being able to understand and read weather forecasts. Entering and keeping track of the daily journals and timesheets, event and patrol documentation, site and equipment inspection, all that kind of stuff. And the final course is the manager or owner course. And this will provide the legal framework in which a business operates. And this includes growing complexity with the employment law, the important aspects of contracts, the obligation to insurance contract, understanding insurance certificates, and a review of the litigation environment. And then there's a standalone course, and that's a pre-inspection, pre-season inspection course. Not expand in detail how pre-season inspections are to take place and how you do that. The tools that we have today to do that are amazing. All this stuff you can now do in the phones, and it works great. But here's really where the rubber meets. Because right now it's contractors to do. But the goal is that the building owners start doing their own pre-season inspections and start taking ownership of the issues that we have on the property. What does a pre-season inspection do? It highlights hazards, potential hazards. You have a site where you've got drains coming downstairs on right-of-ways. You got sites where there's potholes. What happens when the water freezes in the pothole and someone slips in the pothole? Right now it's on this, but in the future, it will be from the building owner, because the building owner gets a pre-season inspection and it's highlighted. If there's a hazard there, he needs to deal with it. And the whole purpose of this is to properly document all this stuff, so that if there is a slip and fall, as a contractor, you can say, yes, there's a pre-season inspection with a recommendation to fix that problem. This doesn't. That's how things will start to change, and that's how things need to become better, in terms of equal responsibility. In terms of building owners and we have no control fixing the pothole, because the building has the money to do it, we don't. And that's just one small example of where certainly we change. And then, as you've already been made aware, we hired the Daisy Group as our consultants. And I think John will probably talk a little bit about that, right, John?
I was hoping to.
Yeah. And then we're also going to hear from Chris on the regulatory framework piece in terms of why we need that and what we really are. Daisy told us what they were doing and how they do it and all that. But what does it really have to do? So I'm going to stop there and give it back to Jordan. Things about health. Yeah. My age, yeah.
Thanks, Gerald. So that's some kind of overview history of sort of how this is played out and what that's looking like. Chris is going to talk about the regulatory framework on the legislative side, what that could look like, what the benefit for that is. John's going to talk on the Daisy Group, how we came to hire them, what we really wanted out of that. John, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll just, like Gerald said, everything good there, and Chris and I both agreed that you covered almost everything. So we're pretty good as far as kind of giving you a lot of that history. I just want to explain, like it's right. We're snowplowing people, and we're grass cutters or hardscapers or irrigation people or tree people or whatever we do in our summer world. We're not lobbyists. And I don't really want to be honest, but at the same time, we are so lucky that we found, first of all, a really well connected government relations and PR firm. They do both of it, and they do it really well. We have been so far so impressed with how things have come together very quickly in that world that moves very slowly. With the Daisy Group. So, part of this meeting, the panel side of it, we'll call it that, is to really get advocates out of a lot of people. We can only do so much. People, we're telling the people we know about this, trying to get some excitement out there. But that's why we need everyone in this room, everyone on Zoom, to talk to every landscaper they know, get every person involved in the snow industry behind us, because there is power. Like Warren Senator cares about what that little old lady on the porch is thinking and saying. That's who he thinks is, those are his constituents. He really is often playing to them. So we need to understand that. And again, the doors that the Daisy Group has opened so far have been awesome. The fact is, we got a call a week before, we got a call a week after even talking about who we're going to speak to in the Premier's office. Hey, we have a meeting this Friday with Patrick Sackville. That came together incredibly quickly. And the fact that Warren said earlier, he's holding the ball. He's not, shoving us off and saying, hey, go talk to environment or go talk to Ministry of Transport. He's truly wanting to see this through as the Premier's office. Like that's incredible. I was very jaded when I first joined Landscape Ontario. I thought, what is this going to do? I pay for insurance already. Is this really going to do anything? That was 2017. Not a ton happened, and we were trying for many years. And now I finally, truly in my heart and soul, feel like we're getting somewhere. We have a great team on the sector group. We have really well, established companies that can afford to put the time into this as well, which is important. But that's why, again, we need everyone's help to get the word out, to get the proxies out there, the people with those stories, to send them in. $100 a month to support us. Landscape Ontario put in 50 grand. CMLA has put in 50 grand, and a lot of companies have put in a lot of money as well. But the Daisy Group is not cheap. And we don't want to get to a point in 3 months where we're saying, we tried, we spent all this money and ran out of money, and here we are. So please, like I said, tell your friends, tell the people that you deal with, tell your suppliers. The more word we have out that we're coming, the better we will be. The more successful we will be. We didn't have great success with our consultant last time around. Hence, what I said, the jadedness of this type of situation. But we're actually now seeing that progression, and we're seeing such amazing results so quickly. So that's my big of you. I'm tired of posting on different Facebook pages, be like, everyone. It takes a little bit out of your soul when you feel you have to be a salesperson, constantly for this type of stuff. It would be so much better if everyone just got it. And the end, we all have the same end goal. We just want to pay cheaper rates for insurance. It's about money. But to get there, we have to do these things. So yeah, we're just looking for that support. That's what we want. We want everyone to jump on board and get behind what Ella is doing right now. Because it's actually, this is not, smoke and mirrors. But yeah.
I'm just gonna reinforce something Gerald said there. In the 23 years as a journalist I've been in the industry, when I was young, I was not aware of this. Canada doesn't talk to the guy shoveling snow or the guy trimming grass about the insurance issue or training issues or anything to do with the government or Bill 118 and its problems. So most of your staff are aware of this. In that time though, and say the last 15 years where I have been in a position to really talk to other owners of particularly the last 3 years, talking to a bunch of clients through a consulting company I was working with. Everyone's saying the same thing, but no one's doing anything. If you've been in this room, you've been in business for 15 years, you've had liability issues. This is an insurance crisis, and there's reason this is called part 2. I've never seen a more concerted effort across the board. There's some big names sitting on this one nice committee as far as the contractors in Ontario and their size and kind of the verbiage and influence they have. But it's not going to be. This isn't going to change without a united front from the vast majority of the snow industry in the province, let alone the country. But for context, to give you some idea, people sitting in this room are the 1%. The vast majority of snow contractors in our province generate less than $500,000. 90+%. So there's 800 roughly in LO, 800 snow members that do some form of snow and ice, and 3,000 LO members. And we're estimating between 8,000 and 10,000 contractors plus clients. So we collectively occupy 10%, and that's who we have to reach to today. So to John's point, anyone that's not an LO member, that doesn't get the emails, they're putting out all this information, isn't sitting in the room right now, we have to get way more people on board in order for this to go forward. And even with all the time that all the people are putting forward, it's not going to be enough. So, Chris.
Let me talk.
Legislative framework, regulatory framework.
Okay.
Your bread and butter.
Right, so we've got a curriculum that we've written, and it's open for anybody to produce training. And we've asked for a national standard in preparation to meet with the standards committee when they finally said, let's go. We prepared a template document, a seed document, if you like, for that. And that's been put sort of on hold. There's absolutely nothing stopping us. We went down that road. It was recognized that to get the solution in place, get legislative change.
Owners of the properties.
The owners of the properties. Everyone seems to be confused. Therefore, that's all I need to do, because that's just not right. So how do you fix that? So we've asked for both legislative changes, one of which is the ASCA model legislation. And the purpose of that is basically say, owner, you cannot contract out of your own negligence. So in other words, all these provisions you put in your contracts that say you're not responsible, you're responsible, or you are part of it. We also asked for the New Hampshire model legislation to be put in place, combined with the ASCA model legislation, so that the owners have a reason to cooperate in this endeavor, because they can get legal liability protections if they meet the criteria established in the legislation to give them the New Hampshire model protections. We also get the same protections if we can tick off all the boxes we're supposed to tick off. So that puts us sort of in line with the owners who also would like to have a solution to these problems. They said so during the workshop. No owner said, not our problem. We had lots of owners at the workshop. They all agreed this is a problem and it needs to be fixed. So we're hoping with the New Hampshire model legislation, they'll come on board. They may be a little less receptive to the ASCA model where they can't contract out of their own negligence. But too bad. So where do you go from there? Well, you need a referee in all of this. Who's going to make the rules? Well, that's where you get an authority having jurisdiction. So for 15 years, I've been a member of the Canadian Elevator Contractors Association and watched the regulatory authority who oversees elevators and how they do it, what they do. So what we did is we sat down with that legislation that was then in place, and we actually drafted one personally nice. So we actually have a legislative model to sit down and have a conversation with the government. So the point being made is an awful lot of preemptive work was done in preparation for the workshop. A lot of preparatory work was done for going and talking to the government by being able to say, we have a curriculum. And by the time we get far enough along, we actually have training too. And that's all being built as we speak. We also have an accreditation policy, which can be governed by LO, or the accreditation policy can be taken over by an authority having jurisdiction. Here it is, it's in writing, and it's consistent with similar legislation that was put in place on accreditation for the authority having jurisdiction who oversees the accreditation process for the elevator industry. So that actually is literally can dovetail straight into an authority having jurisdiction. So it's again, what we're trying to put to the government is a vision on how this industry should work and work. It should resolve most of the issues for the industry. It's a good thing. It's not cheap getting in to see the government runners here in terms of supplying money to make this happen. If you can contribute to that, this endeavor, this is the time to do it.
He asked of us this morning, he spoke, and we really need you to participate in giving us these and bad news stories in terms of business challenges you had because of the increased cost. And also, if you know people that have left the new and ice industry, if you could pass this information on to them so that they also can follow it up. Because, like I said, we need a weekly, and this thing is moving. And I've been involved in LO in a long time. I have never seen anything move so quickly and such a. It's not going to move too fast, but it's at a steady clip. And this is the first time to say that, yeah, this is going in the right direction, and the light is at the end of the tunnel. And with every passing week, we need the daisy. That light is getting brighter because we're getting closer to the end of the tunnel. Like we got, like next week, we have a meeting with that insurance bureau. Like there's something like that. We never get this stuff. You know, I've been involved with all kinds of associations. I've never seen it fast and such a bunch of like. God, here's 6 or 7 of your staff on call with us every week. So we got to do it. Just like with Bill 118, we did our part. We were engaged with our MPs. We're going to have to do the same thing. We need everybody to be all in on this. This is an opportunity. This window is going to close fast. The government is in play for another couple of years. Once that's done, that's it. Probably next year, we're starting to think of a re-election. So we got to move, and we need everybody to do their part. Thank you.
So to sum up there, we have a PRBR consultant engagement group that's advocating both to the public and asking them what their next what they're going to be putting stuff up public for us. We're also advocating to multiple forms of government and policy problems for us. Everyone in this room, we got mentioned earlier today, we need an activist. regardless. That we need training and a solid curriculum and an actual career path for these guys. With stuff. We need legislation, accreditation policy, all of these things, all been happening. We're at the finish line. It's weird to say it like that, there's still lots of work to do, but all the things that haven't been done for the last 20 years, all got done last fall. 5, 8, 9 years. Right? This is it. So, alarm bells ring. In regards to some of the questions you guys asked earlier, or any new ones you have, considering you've got a bit of more varied than Warren up here is, again, approaching this at a very different level than we are. In regards to accreditation, the curriculum itself, legislative framework, the standards we've done on that stuff. Fire away.
This one's for John. So Gerald had mentioned that you guys are moving with Daisy Group at a very steady pace. Now I don't know exactly how long that timeline will be, but I see the names that are mentioned on there. And I'd like to know how close we are to like our monthly commitment, funding wise, and how much more you might need. So we're asking for stories, but in order for this train to keep chugging along, you need it to be funded as well. So there's been lots of communication requesting funds, but like maybe is there like a dollar value or a percentage that we need to sort of increase or reach?
If everyone in this room gave $100 every month for 7 months, we would be fully across the finish line. So we are so close in that sense, but again, if this goes on, let's say another 2 years, the funding could easily dry out in 3 to 4 months. So, you know, right now we're okay, but the focus needs to be on moving forward with the government and people, not on, hey guys, can you spare $1? So it would be just amazing if everything could get properly funded and those commitments to come through. Because yeah, it's not going to be expensive per company. But we just need everyone on board. LO's given, like I said, 50 grand. CNLA's given 50 grand over 5 years. And then all these companies have contributed anywhere from $100 to $6,000. But the problem is, I don't think this is confidential. Daisy Group is $7,000 a month, $7,500 a month. So we're now in month 4. So you can see the money gets eaten up very quickly, and it would be just really nice to focus on the future and not be negative.
Yeah. So just to elaborate on that, I was speaking with someone during lunch, and they were sort of asking about that, and like I guess the general room doesn't know if we have reached our goal or if there's still more funds required. So maybe that message would be
we need money.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think we should be probably more forthcoming from the budget standpoint. So I think we could probably do a marketing campaign to get out there, say, hey, now here's our end goal. You see this little, here's the red dot, we're almost here. But yeah, so I think we could definitely do more in that sense. But again, it would just be so much easier if everyone just sent e-trends to that landscapeontario.ca.com, $100 every month, said put snow in the message, and we're good to go.
Small commitments go a long time.
Yeah.
Just want to say thanks to all you guys for the amount of hours you volunteered. Gerald, I've seen you here for many years, and what you guys have accomplished as a volunteer board is incredible. I don't know how to say thanks enough. We all bitch and complain in our own offices at home. You guys come here and do all this work.
We bitch and complain too.
I know that too, but that's our thing. I just want to say thanks, and Joe and the team at Landscape Ontario, if there's any way to continue with the email blast to kind of remind us as we get lost in our season, to put it on the forefront and support you guys in your endeavors. Maybe just a small suggestion, if it's not already being done.
But on that note, what is the best way to reach people? Because all I hear from people I talk to, just delete those. Because there's so much information constantly coming out from LO that's really hard to stand out and be like, hey, snow and ice. So that's definitely, these are terrible seeds, by the way. Like I know I got a big ass, but still. So it's so hard to get through because Allo is doing so much. There is so much going on. I think, last I heard, there's over 254 events in the calendar year. That's a lot. And there's a lot of staff, but not that many staff. So whatever you think is the best way to reach people, definitely be forthcoming, email in, how you would get across better to you. Because we definitely don't feel that, it's hitting. This campaign hit pretty well. I think they're not, I don't know how to read those stats, but they sounded good. 253,000. What's that word? Bites. No, not bites. It was impressions.
Impression.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means, but it sounds like a lot. That was 50,000 for me going, did anyone comment? But yeah, so whatever we can do to get across, definitely want to do.
You guys talk about getting more members to join Landscape Ontario. Why didn't someone go after like a Cooey Brothers or a Markham Moore?
Funny story. Should tell that story.
I should actually. Like, because that's, these open houses that they hold, sometimes there's 1,000 people there, right? And I know Chris has been there before.
We asked to speak at Cooey Brothers, and we were unable to speak at that time. So yeah.
What's that? So basically what you're saying is Bill said no?
Bill said no.
Really?
Yes. So if you'd like to tell them, then why would you say?
Why would anybody here want to buy from Bill?
That's a good question.
Right? Like, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
That's why I'm bringing this up.
I think the best way for everyone here to contribute is to amplify this message. So all of the contractors that to send this out to them, to forward on the emails. If we look at Landscape Ontario as community builders, we work together to have this community. Look at the analogy that showed up here today. Because you believe in the work that we're doing, we need this group to be multiplied by 10 to get the reach that we need in order to be successful with our provincial government. And the way that we do that is get you to amplify that message. So we're sending out those emails. We're going to supplier events. Justin, who's our member engagement specialist, is out there out on the pavement trying to generate new members. And we're getting anywhere between 30 and 40 new members a month, which is fantastic. And we saw over the pandemic, we added about 1,000 companies over 3 years because of the pandemic and the work that Landscape Ontario did. But we're also seeing a lot of members not renewing. The GM discount isn't the same way that it was. It's $3,000 instead of 50. We need you to help us with the message and to amplify that message so that they can hear from you just how important this issue is and what work Landscape Ontario is doing. So the way that this happens is through you.
Just one more thing on that, Joe, it's through us as well, it's gotta be accurate, fake news is the problem. And 25 years ago, somebody sold Bill Cooey on putting liquid mattresses in the back of a pickup to be a liquid assist truck. And it was a calcium chloride of some sort of product that made the parking lot a skating rink.
Yeah.
So Bill got tied up with trying to promote us and he did want to talk to it. So it was bad news. It wasn't good information. So we've got to be careful. We can't promote something unless we know it works. And that's exactly, I didn't know those numbers were that good. That's really good. So if you tell people stuff, make sure you're telling them stuff that works. Bill's not happy with what he did a long time ago.
The other area where some of you may be interested in assisting is as a snow and ice, we're always looking for more members to sit on our committee. So if anyone here is interested, come and see us afterwards, and we'll give you the information about next meeting and where it's going to be held. Talk to Care or any one of us.
It'd all be sent in an email.
Specific questions for?
You trying to turn on?
Somebody asked me if there's any paperwork, and there was an email sent out with the curriculums, the accreditation policy, And the workshop agreement, if you didn't get that email, maybe you could.
Coming,
touch base.
it's coming
Yeah.
right after this.
Gary, right after. Because the best thing, even if you can't attend the meetings, you can read the curriculum and say, I have a couple recommendations. That feedback is unbelievably valuable.
And we're gonna redo the survey as well, because we missed a question. It's not always what we pay every month in insurance, it's what your deductible is as well, so we wanna know those, numbers, because we're hearing a lot of companies went from 5,000, and then they went and added a zero onto that, which is, it's insane. You know, when you make $2,000 a month for 5 months on a contract. And if there's one snowfall that has a $50,000 deductible, what the hell? What? So, yeah, we want to know as much information as we do. And he's a statistics person, but he will really like that.
The accreditation policy, and I'm chair of the accreditation committee. Just so you guys know, so we didn't really elaborate on that much. The curriculum stuff, and the idea is to kind of push that forward. However, how it's going to be trained and thrown out there to general contractors and your employees is a bit of a different process. So if anyone in the room is thinking this is going to be an entirely LO-based thing, that's probably not the intention. And many of you will be familiar with that example I gave you is first aid training or that. So if you guys do that in-house, if you ever join a health and safety committee or anything like that. It's third-party contractors that are on a list and go to online, and they each have different prices for different courses and such. And sometimes they'll come to you at a time to do class. That's what a lot of them do. So what's going to happen is they're going to get the curriculum. They're going to develop courses meeting the criteria of that, submit that to us as the accreditation committee. We're going to vet that against the curriculum, whether or not it meets or doesn't meet those standards, give them notes, send it back until they get a course that meets the minimum standard. Then it could be potentially certified accredited training. So this could be open to any hero.
It has to be, there's just too many people in the province that do snowplows.
Correct. Fellow want to take that on, we need another 1,000 staff or so.
Well, the other thing is that it shows the government, when we go to the government, that we have a building capacity.
This whole process is for them strategic. We didn't approach Daisy Group or the government until all these things have been in place. Instead of the other times we've gone where we haven't really had all this, or the times other industries got, it's unique to say for us, it's nice landscape industry to say no other industry that ever come to you and ask to be regulated. They always get like something goes wrong, there's explosions on it, for whatever reason it is, the government says, no, that's enough to put their foot down, so there's authority and there's support and there's rules and policies and legislation. We're going to them and saying, please come with some rules to solve the 18 that are all symptoms of one. That's the wildness.
And the added benefit with that is that will help see our pricing go up. That will see our pricing go up.
Once the playing field is level across the board, procurement will be less of an issue. Contractors that are out there, like cutting some of you, will this because they won't be able to survive in this. So it serves a bunch of purposes. Like when that's why I said when Warren was talking about this, it's very high level. The granular pieces of it are all important. All the questions many of you were thinking of, and that someone came up that he wasn't specifically able to answer, it's all built in. We've thought about all of it, and we want more people on the boards to bring up stuff like that. We're not.
We're going down. Think so.
Any other questions before we enter?
Seems to be a little bit of disconnect between all the stuff you guys are doing, and, you know, I agree with the guy here that was saying, you guys, vast amount of experience in all the areas. Jordan, I know that you wouldn't let these guys say anything that wasn't gonna hit the ground.
Devil's advocate Jordan's vote no.
Yeah, and the speed at which you're moving, dealing with the government. What's being set up, I don't see how does that make, so if we have some liability, like the owners taking more responsibility. How does that stop a slippage? How does that stop a claim? And me, and we have to defend it. It's on this. Feel free to use the phone. My product, okay.
It won't. You're gonna get the claim. You're gonna continue to get the claim. The difference is the claimant's gonna change. Claimant you get now could be anybody. They own a house, they own a boat, they own a car, they're a doctor, they're a difference. You're gonna take their car. In the elevator space, we don't get claimants who have stuff. All the claimants are what we call impecunious. They own nothing. Almost all of them own nothing. Diamond and Diamond never met them on an elevator case. Why? Because elevator cases are hard to win. You have to work to win an elevator case. Why? Because there's lots of standards, lots of codes, there's regulation, there's rules, and there's training. What are we doing? We're replicating that. There's training, there's going to be rules, there's going to be standard. The lawyers are going to have to get through this layer of defenses being put in place, and it's being done systematically and deliberately. And it's not going to matter that the person fell. It doesn't matter what John said about the person who tripped on that ledge. You can show me a video. There's the ledge. There's the person with the broken leg. It's out of level. Here's a picture of it. You took 10 pictures of it out of level. So what? Doesn't matter that it was out of level. That's not the point. The investigation is not about leveling. Every elevator can be out of level for all kinds of different reasons. It's not going to matter that they slipped on ice, is where we want to get to. Yeah. The analysis has to be on what you did, why you did it, what the structure is, what the system is, whether the system is reasonable, and whether you have what somebody might call substantial clearing of the site. The site was substantially clear, reasonably clear. The system was reasonable. We're not looking for perfection. You found the one ice patch on this 50-acre property. Congratulations. It's unfortunate, but that's why you have a lookout. We are not negligent. But you have to provide an explanation as to why you are not negligent. And the problem is you have no basis upon which to explain why you're not negligent right now. It's the Wild West. Nothing. You don't have standard, you don't have code, you don't have training, you don't have manual, you have nothing.
And there is 2 pieces of case law for contractors that have private payments. And both of them were fought down against the contractor who CPA tax. They're extremely strict. The judge ruled against the contractors in both of those cases. So anytime any of you wanted to fight cases, even if you thought you had unbelievable evidence and that it was a no-brainer, when you get to court, the judge who knows nothing about snow and ice is going to refer to cases. The only 2 times this has ever gone through, you can look at that, look at why they ruled that way, and like they ruled it. So why would your insurance company will spend $200,000 to fight that when you've got full spring funding? Getting it entirely on insurance is not the right way to go about this. Because what I just explained, right? They're going to spend $175,000 to fight something and lose, or you can pay $25,000. You're the insurance company, what would you do? They are not the problem, they're simply the lawyer, Simon Diamond. They started taking, I don't remember who said this, 10, 15 years ago, they started taking advantage of the loophole in the slip fall thing. You want to know why they took advantage? The contractors weren't documented. We stumbled at the beginning, it's caused this problem that's spiraled. And then we didn't do anything about that. So now we're here. And this is the best path forward that I've ever seen. And it's well thought out, and it's planned, and it's multiple people across many different areas.
I don't have any doubt that what you guys are doing is the way to do it. People from everywhere You know, John's got a huge operation.
Well, he's the least of them. Like you said, you're big ass.
It's just, you know, from from a contractor point of view, you want to see, okay, when's the insurance coming down? How much is it coming down? So a lot of those things are sort of adding costs. Training is gonna be very expensive. Very difficult, and you know.
That's sort of the consequence of us not doing it in 20 years. We have to put the best foot forward as possible. We have to prove that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and set the example for the rule, for this rule. So that when the stuff does get legislated and the rules are actually in place, a large group of contractors are already meeting the requirements and can immediately defend themselves. And say that most of the issues are doing this. And you guys were kind of screwing this.
So what happens on when John's guy was 20 times to do his ratings?
Fire.
Yeah, and then.
Have to, which he should have done already.
Yeah, it's like 65, he's almost retired.
He's not allowed to come to work until.
Exactly.
That ties into the procurement part of it, right? We're saying,
Making people to just show off and grab a shovel. And you can't just fire them, not doing everything.
You know,
That
you're right.
You're not gonna get your snow down at all.
You know, it's like planting a tree. We should have done this 20 years ago. If the second best time to do it is now.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's happened in our industry, you need to train and change the culture. That's what it means to help, is the culture in our industry has to change with the curriculum in the department. We are behind. Legislation and constantly, things aren't done the way we're supposed to do. You don't do what you say on the training, it's consequences. We're gonna have to run our operation. The culture has to change. This is like the Wild West of the government. It needs to change. And we're paying for that right now with our insurance. This is the only way.
why can't you pay all you guys $3? Because you're over at cost of each and your contracts don't support that. Because there's other contractors that do the same work terribly for a low thing.
So how does that work then? You know, I'm thinking that Mike doesn't have. Say it, Mike doesn't. But, you know, I'm busy at something else, doesn't have all this. You kind of the same, you can't operate it, because you don't. You just say you got.
Jeff Brown is still telling us football framework, so all of this in place. He's gonna get burned and lose a ton of money. Property managers and insurance companies are going to adopt all of this as either you have this, or you don't have insurance, or you can't build. It will remove the contractors we're referring to as the reason you can't charge devices for pricing, because they're not gonna be able to provide in this environment.
It takes some time. Yeah.
Exactly.
You won't be on the ten. Which some minimum requirements now. I mean, there's all ripped through with like tissue paper, but. Still, it'll take some time, but it'll flush them out. I mean, not just like the insurance costs, then the engineer does the day.
Having an authority, having jurisdiction, you're gonna love it. You're gonna hate it. All at the same time, and I can assure you. The elevator industry, half the time they're praising the TSSA and half the time they're cursing them. But none of them would say, get rid of it. None of them. None. Absolutely none. Just put to a vote, actually. Should we lobby the government to say goodbye to the TSSA? Didn't pass. Smart guys in the elevator. There, yeah. You're gonna hate it to some extent. It's gonna be a learning curve and it's gonna be painful, but you know, the guys who don't fight it, work with it, are gonna rise to the top. It's the way to succeed.
Consequence to not doing it at this point is far worse.
Yeah, and you wanna be at the front of the curve, that's why you're here.
Yeah,
So,
and if you operated as an elevator contractor and got caught doing maintenance, not with a license. God help you. God help you. TSSA would crucify you.
Please tell me you've got a hard-hitting question.
Well, no, it's not more, I'm just to reiterate to get to the point where we're paying guys. So about technicians and, unionized guys and all that kind of stuff. Who are the highest paid technicians across the board? Christian,
Elevator.
elevator technicians.
Oh, yeah, elevator technicians, by far.
Right? So as soon as that authority comes in, everything, because they're all gonna be trained, they got a certain thing. So you're getting paid for it, and those guys are the highest. The next trade, sprinkler fitters. Right, just glorified plumbers. But because their liability of when something escapes, that their insurance rates are through the roof. So you're gonna have to have a sprinkler fitter over a plumber that's gonna do it because their insurance.
And that's actually a big important issue because the Insurance Bureau of Canada, that we're gonna be meeting with on Monday. There is a capacity issue for building owners right now, which never existed previously. Because of that issue. Sprinkler risks, flooding risks, fire risks in buildings, because we build things like crap, not like we did 30 years ago. So they're actually, the cost of insurance to the building owners is going up on the internal envelope of the building. So that's the challenge we have is, come on, government, help us on the external part of the building. Well, the building owners are also dealing with the internal increasing cost they're facing because they're living in a building that was made, Swiss cheese.
Any questions? Is there something? I see the angle you're coming at, and it's a great angle and everything, but what's different about Ontario than Quebec, other than government? Where they just can't sue up there, they get so much thing that we do. They've dealt with it, they just don't sue.
Again,
They live in Canada, they understand it snows, and you might slip and fall if you go out.
similar to goal 18, I'll say this, and Chris might speak this more, but that's a misconception as well. There's no rule in Quebec that says you can't sue. You can still sue, if you're the previous injury, how's that work? If the
Go
public,
out there and try and sue for.
I don't know, the public, if you were
Still
walking
existed.
on a sidewalk and it was not serviced at all, no contractor never showed up, you slip and fall on ice, break your neck, you're paralyzed from waist down, you don't think you can sue for that?
I walked into a restaurant this winter when I got my truck safety, it had an inch of ice in the side, right in the doorway. An inch of clays ice, they don't care.
The difference is that they changed the culture of the public. Into that.
Only way to do that here is not to allow them.
It's a little harder to do here, unfortunately, but ultimately that's what it is. Public isn't actively trying to sue. There isn't a dime trying to do that stuff there. It's not good.
Yeah, I haven't looked at Quebec. I mean, it's a totally different legal system in Quebec. But I'll be absolutely amazed. The civil code in Quebec does not permit somebody to sue for slipping on ice for a failure to maintain. I mean, that just does not sound right to me.
That's what I said. Yeah, different civil code.
Yeah, I mean, it does not sound right to me. I mean, you can sue on an elevator claim in Quebec, so why would you not be able to sue for a failure to maintain your property?
No, I don't know the reason behind what they do.
I've heard people say you can't sue in Quebec and not.
Maybe the rumor mill has come to the reality though.
Yeah, not my knowledge.
Alberta. How salty people are down the west.
Very beautiful.
They drive, the public drives on ice all the time and all that's my life.
Yeah, buildings out there, tall people staying.
That doesn't change the fact that Ontario is the. But the GTA operates the way it operates. So the expectation here is a black pavement all the time. Doesn't change.
It doesn't say that we can't change. It's effective.
Which is part of what this whole process.
But I think this is making it worse for the average contractor. Who regrets all their seasonal employees that are gonna do all this training when they're working until the frost or the first snow. And then they've got all this training to do and keep 2 jobs going. Which is not gonna happen. I agree with the training, don't get me wrong. I agree with totally what you're saying. The reality of it is a completely different thing. Trying to get it done. And you can't just say, well, you can't come to work because it's your loader operator that plows the snow. And you can't do business without it. So we're all on the same wheel that's gonna get us into a great big funnel and get us nowhere. When all these people that are seasonal can't get all this training done. That's
That's a big question to unpack, and we're all happy to talk separately about it. We are, I think, 20 minutes over. So we do have to kind of wrap this up, going soon. We'll have some closing statement.
It's actually Gerald.
Oh.
Yeah, so Jordan, thanks for moderating this, appreciate it. Chris, John, thank you. A couple of thank yous. First of all, to Carrie and Joe and Sheila. Jalisa. Anyhow, thank you very much. I mean, the lunch was great. If this panel was no good, at least we gotta take it. So thank you very much. And then I want to thank all of you for coming. I think what makes an event worthwhile is when people show up and participate, not just by listening, but also by asking questions. So thank you very much. And just one announcement. That is, everything that we talked about today, you can find links on the LO website. So there's a link to share your feel-good stories. There is a link for donation. There's a link for the CSA Snow and Ice Workshop Agreement. There is a link to an article about professionalism in the snow and ice industry. And there's a link to the draft Snow and Ice Accreditation and curriculum documents. So once again, on behalf of the Snow and Ice Sector Group, thank you all very much. And enjoy this spring and summer, and happy planning for the winter of 22, 23, 24. Thank you.